This is the drum, and this is the voices of the people we call indigenous, whose land we are on. They are telling us all about the terrible history they've had with the settler colonial people. And the people are telling us we must do something. And I have responded. I am a descendant of colonial settlers and also Jewish immigrants to Canada. But the colonial settlers came 300 years ago, and they were took a lot part in a lot of the things that went on, and supported the governments who carried out the genocide and and tragedies of the indigenous people. I was born in Toronto. I'm, as you can see, an older senior, so I've been through a lot of different things in my life. But when I found out that the indigenous people were having such a deplorable conditions, it was when I was working in Toronto, and I was working downtown with the people that had addiction problems at that time. And there were so many indigenous people on mostly alcohol at that time, and then later on drugs. And it was really sad to see, but we didn't know what had happened to them. We had no idea, because our history was all dressed up with the British being the heroes or the French being the heroes, and they were the savages. So it took a while, but I'd always had this impression that people mattered, and that we must be treat people fairly. One of the sayings that was going around at that time was, better to light one candle than curse the darkness. And I always had this feeling that, and this belief that we must do something, not just have empty words. Then after I moved to Calgary, I got badly injured, so I lost my job as a Tai Chi instructor. And because it was a leg injury, so I naturally couldn't teach Tai Chi. And I was recovering from that and wondering, what am I going to do? So I believe in serendipity, because I was standing in my living room and the radio came on, the CKUA, and they played this playlist of Idle No More. So I said, that's it. I'm going to go to that. So they were having these flash mobs, which were really great around Christmas time and all through that period in 2011. And the key people I got to know were Cheryl Gray Eyes Chagnon and Chantel Storm Song Chagnon. They were the ones who arranged the events. There weren't many non-natives in the group at first, but we were told that listen to the elders, listen to the teachings. So that was a really good message for me, because it was the beginning of a real in-depth spiritual journey and learning. I joined a drum making group. So the drum I played on was one that I made myself with the help of Cheryl and Chantel. And also we had the teachings of the elders, and they showed us how to smudge. And it was all really wonderful. After we finished all that, we had potluck suppers, and so they taught us their songs, and they were from all the different nations in the Canada and United States. So later on, we formed a singing and drumming group. And that was one of the highlights, because there were not just Indigenous people, but there were people like myself. I'm the mother of an Indigenous child, and there were Métis and people from different backgrounds, and one person that adopted two Indigenous daughters. So we formed this group, and we actually played at the Jubilee in a multicultural group. So somebody said, well, what's the name of your group? So Chantal shouts out, Sisters from Another Mother. So we had a wonderful thing. We were very effective because we went to all these rallies and marches, both for the pipelines and all, and also when Harper was in the government, we made sure that we turned up at all those meetings and made sure they heard us. So that was just amazing, and we ended up playing for all sorts of occasions. So it was wonderful. But then the Truth and Reconciliation hearings were in Calgary. So of course I went to them, and I really found out these stories, which I had heard from the different ceremonies that I attended. But seeing those people and seeing Judge Murray Sinclair was just amazing. And one thing that was really beautiful about it, that they had a smudge room, and anybody could go in there and just sit there and be with some elders and talk if they wanted. So it was not just telling their story, but it was a starting of a healing process that went on. And as I say, the one thing I really have learned is to listen while you're in a circle to the people who are sharing. It's very painful sometimes, but it's so important. I joined this circle called the Talking Stick Healing Ceremony, and it was mostly people who were in pain and had things happen to them. We call it lateral violence, and it's all the trauma that they've suffered has gone down in the generations, because it doesn't just affect that person, but all the parents and all their siblings and all the next few generations, plus their community. So if people could realize how important it is to be part of the reconciliation, it I don't know, I just find that it's a matter of humanitarian crisis right now, because as we know, there's no drinking water, sometimes no water supply, deplorable housing, suicides, drug addiction. Then there's the brutality of the police. So there's no end of things we can still do. Since the COVID started, I spoke at the racist hearing program that they had at the city hall last summer. It was actually my birthday, so I waited on this phone for hours, but I spoke about the tragedies and about how everybody must support the people, and about defunding the police and the brutality. So I don't know what they've done about it. Not much, I don't think. I find that the government officials say a lot of things, but they mostly want photo ops and grand statements. The other thing I'm involved in now is the name change for Langevin School, which I'm sure most people are aware who he is. because they did change the name of the bridge, but changing this name seems to be a huge mountain like climbing Everest. And gives a show what parents can do with children. Is these three students started 4 years ago, and now they have a huge group of us who are supporters and action people. So there's all sorts of things, but the main thing I feel that I'm still the settler colonial person, and I have to listen, and I have to do what they say. I'm not there as a big hero to save people. I'm there to be the listener, to be a support, and to take action when it's called for. So I just want to say, do listen and do take action.